Coach, just do you mind telling us just what was the focus on practice today? I know you weren't happy with the effort in the last few games. Just what was kind of your focus now that you're able to get the team on the practice court?
Will, can you guess what my number one focus was after last night's press conference? Transition defense, transition defense, transition defense, transition defense, and then getting into the ball, you know, closing out harder. Just yeah, everything at a much higher effort in energy level.
Hey Stan, it's Andrew from ESPN. Transition defense aside, you guys are still, I think, top five, top 10 in a lot of defensive categories, not allowing points in the paint, not allowing free throws. Offensively, however, I know you, as you mentioned last night, we love to talk about offense. Is it, looking back to the last two games, is it just a matter of making some of these open looks that you guys have right now? It seems like open shots are just not falling right now in some cases.
I listen. So first of all, I think, and we showed it to our guys today. First 5 games of the year, we were third in the league defensively, and we were down in the 20s offensively. The last 3 games, we're 19th in the league defensively. Our offense has moved up to 13th. So our offense is trending up. Our defense is trending down. And so, look, I get it, and I'm not being critical of anybody. I get it. If I'm a fan, if I'm anything else, I'm looking at missed shots. I'm always looking at the offense. But our problem over the last 2 games especially is we're not defending at a high enough level. Our offense is getting better. Look, if we could be, which I think we can be, if we could be a top 10 defense and get in the top half offensively, which is where we've been this last short stretch, then that's a pretty good formula for us to be pretty good and stay as an elite rebounding team. We've got a pretty good formula there, I think. But if we're going to drop back down and be a below average defensive team, then quite honestly, it's going to be hard for us to be good.
Hey Stan, Christian Clark here at Null.com. I got 2 things for you, kind of the same topic. Just for those of us who don't know, I mean, how do you like drill transition defense in practice? What does that look like?
Well, it's a lot of running, number one. So yeah, you've got to make sure as the ball goes in the air on a shot that you've got guys all the way back. So you've got to do it in practice. When the ball is shot, guys are all the way back. Then you've got to identify who's taking the ball. Somebody's got to get and take away layups. Somebody's got to identify the ball. Then we got to talk and match up and get to people. So it's hard work in a lot of cases. And it's doubly hard for us in a lot of cases because we are such a good offensive rebounding team. You know, there's a lot of teams, and I've coached them, quite honestly, where you don't go very hard to the offensive boards. You're just back. We're trying to do both. So I'm not kidding myself to thinking that we'll be as good in terms of transition defense as teams I've coached in the past, because I think with us and the way we're built offensively, we need to offensive rebound. So we'll give up a few more, but 27 fast break points, it's absurd. I mean, it's absurd. And they could see today, they're ball watching when the ball's in the air, so we're not reacting back quickly enough. We're letting people behind us on the break. We're not closing out to shooters. I mean, they could see it all. I mean, it was a bad night last night.
And just to follow up real quick, I mean, you hit it on briefly, but like you guys are a great offensive rebounding team. How much of the problem is you guys hit the glass really hard, and how much of it is just you're just not getting back?
Yeah, I thought last night at least that 90% of it was stuff we could have taken care of just getting back. I mean, there's going to be an occasional time, where we get outnumbered because of Zion and Steven on the glass. And that's going to happen. Now, they've got to sprint very hard to get back in plays, but there's going to be times that we're going to be outnumbered. But, and I think they would tell you the same thing watching the film today. You watch the film, there weren't too many things that we couldn't have covered with good effort. No, I don't think. Well, we'll see. You never know. He felt better today than he did yesterday. He did not practice, but he felt better. He thinks he'll be okay. But it is day to day in the sense that, you expect you'll feel better tomorrow, but you don't know that for sure. So we'll just see where he is tomorrow.
Coach David Rook from the Bird Rights. When you talk about that defensive practice and just some pride in the defense, those last three games really do stick out. Why has the communication fallen off? And then, like you said, just people not going to their responsibilities. We're seeing three people converge on drivers leaving wide open shots for people. Just what has it been to cause this kind of collapse over the last three games?
Well, to me, that's actually pretty easy question to answer. We came out of training camp where, you're going 2.5, 3 hours sometimes every day, and we're spending a lot of that time drilling our defense, and we saw good carryover with it for the most part in those first few games. I mean, Phoenix, we weren't great, but for the most part, those first 5 games, you saw a good carryover. But because of the pace of the schedule, we really hadn't drilled much defensively, and we're not ingrained in the habits that we need to have defensively. And so you get slippage when you get away from that stuff. And one of the big challenges for us as a staff this year is to figure out how to practice and the balance between keeping guys fresh enough to be able to bring good energy to the game and doing enough work to build and maintain really solid habits at both ends of the floor. And clearly, if you watch the last 2 games at the defensive end, up till now, we have not found that balance. I think it's natural, right? We've reverted back to where we were defensively a year ago. And so we need to get in and drill and drill and drill. And you're not going to have 2.5 hours a day. So you're going to have to be efficient with your time. They're going to have to be able to identify things on film and correct it. But we do need some time every practice day. We give them a lot of days off, but every practice day, there's got to be some defensive drilling repetition in there to build really good habits.
Hey, Coach, this is Schmidt from Bourbon Street Shots. Earlier in the season, you said you'd like to see one of Brandon or Zion on the floor at all times. I've noticed something which may or not be significant. You're also keeping one of either Brandon or Eric Bledsoe on the floor each time you're staggering them as much as you can. What do you like about that setup, and what do you like pairing Eric with Zion in those bench units?
I don't, to be honest, Schmidt, there's really not been a conscious effort to pair those 2 guys. It's just worked out in terms of the way Brandon and Zion rotate and the way Lonzo and Eric rotate, that the minutes coincide. So I don't think actually we have found a really good rotation. Last night, obviously, in the third quarter, our starters weren't good. But for the year, our starters have been good. That's been a good lineup for us. They start and end each half. That's been good. But, that middle 12 minutes of each half, which is half the game, has not really been good for us. And so maybe we need to tinker with the rotation in terms of what we're doing. So I don't know how many different options we have, but it is something to look at.
Hey, Stan, Rick Bonnell. I remember years ago you talked about how it was an uncomfortable experience to coach against friends and people you were close to, like Cliff. Do you think tomorrow will be a self-conscious experience for the Ball brothers to play against each other?
I can't even imagine. The Holiday brothers know what it's like, and I can't even imagine what that must be like. I mean, first of all, it's phenomenal to me, that, you've got 2 people in the same family. I mean, I know that they're not the first, but, playing in the NBA, it's so hard to make it to the NBA as a player, and to have 2 people in the same family, it's phenomenal. I know how close my brother and I are. I can't imagine, I can, like competing against my brother is not comfortable because you have 300 and, we never were in the same conference, so at least as head coaches, so you have 363 days a year that you're rooting for your brother and hoping for his happiness and everything else, and then 2 nights a year where you're trying to kick each other's ass. So it's a little different feel, but as an accomplishment, I'll just tell you, I'll never forget looking down the first time I looked down the sideline or down in the national anthem. He was with Houston, I was with Miami, and I was just shaking my head inside thinking, how the hell did we get here? Now the Ball brothers won't have that feeling. They know how they got there. They're really, really good. For my brother and I, it was a little bit different, but it is surreal, I think, to look down there in an NBA game and go, God, that's my brother. Like, we grew up together. I mean, phenomenal accomplishment, and they should be proud of themselves and proud of each other.
This is Jim from Pelicans.com. Kind of off topic. I was wondering about, you guys obviously have a 7-game road trip coming up where you're going to be gone for 13, 14 days. Given the circumstances this year where you can't do as much, you can't go out to restaurants, you can't explore cities and that kind of thing, how do you kind of shift your time or shift your focus in terms of just having that much time, between games, and do you just to relax, like watch movies, and focus? What do you focus on?
Are you saying me personally or what we're trying to do with the players?
Either one. I mean, I'm interested in both, really.
I mean, for me, it's just you got more time to watch film, and maybe you've got an extra hour a day than what you have at home to read or something, follow what's going on in the world and politics and things like that. It's just all work for me and pretty boring, because at least here I go home to my wife every day, and have a little bit of a life. On the road, you're going back to a hotel room. Not a whole lot else to do, like you said. Well, what are you going to do? I mean, L.A., when we go there, that's like a ghost town. My brother was just there. Like, you can't do anything. So you sit in your room. You do your work, you get ready to play, and that's all you can do. I don't really have any other answers. As far as for our team, we are looking at maybe setting some things up that we can do to get them out of their rooms. But I really think what guys want to do is they'd like to do some things other than be with their team. Like, they love each other, they enjoy being around each other, but occasionally, like guys like to go on the road and meet up with friends and go out to dinner, and none of that's available. So we'll try to figure out some stuff. It's just not easy for anybody, but we're no different than the other 29 teams in the league either.
Coach David Rowe again. Just one more thing on the defensive rotations. It seems that the Frontcourt, in particular, Zion, Jackson, they have some real struggles there in coverages and in rotations. Is it a lot of their experience, or it seems to be there also just there's been some mental errors there as well that are really problematic. How are you addressing those young players?
I wouldn't say there's been an abundance of mental errors. Look, I mean, it is tough for sinners, especially guys who have been conditioned to protect the rim and everything else, to then have to get out on three-point shooters. And, Jackson got blitzed last night, 3 threes in a row. He runs back in transition, and he's used to getting back and protecting the paint, and he leaves too much distance with Muscala. His closeout, could they have been better? Of course, but it's tough for a center. So I just think they've been caught in some tough matchups, and we're going to have some of those problems. Everybody has some of those problems. Okay, we can't give up 27 fast break points. There's just things you can take away and things you can't. Nobody's going to shut anybody out. but you've got to take away the things you can take away, and we didn't do a good job of that last night.
Hey, Coach. This is Ollie with the Bird Rights. You, since the start of training camp, have talked about how one of the pillars is you want to cut down on the turnovers that this team makes. And you can see why after just 8 games. 3 lowest turnover games for you guys all resulted in wins. So, having said that, how can you get these guys to honestly cut down on that? Because you just talked about how defensive drills you can work on in practice. But what about cutting down turnovers moving forward?
Well, I think that, we try to stay on them about being very fundamental, not being up in the air to pass the ball, passing the ball on time and on target, seeing the defense, making solid, simple plays, not trying to hit the home run. But while we've improved a little bit over the course of the year, if we look the first 5 and the last 3, not enough. I thought we had some real careless ones last night that got converted at the other end. It goes back to, and we've talked about it a lot with our team. I mean, the first thing you've got to do is not beat yourself. And the 2 ways, or the 2 most prominent ways you beat yourself, is turning the ball over and fouling people. And we've done a pretty good job overall of not fouling people, but we haven't done a good job taking care of the ball. And when you're turning the ball over and struggling to shoot the ball, well, I mean, now you're in real trouble. If you take care of the ball, rebound the ball like we do, don't foul people. I've said to our guys all year, and I honestly believe this, you'll have a chance every night. If the other team's shooting great and you're not, you'll have a chance. But we have rarely put all those things together.
Great. Thanks a lot, Coach.
All right, guys.